Hi, and welcome back to What's the Point of Slow Yoga? I'm going to be here, first of all, for about 5 minutes, just introducing myself, introducing this series of lives, giving you and the Facebook algorithms time to find me. And in about 5 minutes' time, I will be starting this morning's program, which is looking at, sorry, just doing some technical stuff for a second. There we go. Okay, so yes, at 1:45, if you're watching me live, or in about 5 minutes time, I'll be starting with today's program. So today we are looking at the brain, a very quick overview of the brain, of its key functions, and how yoga in general and slow yoga in particular connect to that, how they help. So today's practice, when we get to that, we're going to be sitting again as we did yesterday. So it's entirely up to you. You can sit on a chair again like you did yesterday. That's what I'm going to do because it makes it easier for the video. Or you can sit on the floor if that's more comfortable for you, whatever you prefer. So I would invite you to get comfortable, get seated, and comfortable, and yet still in a way that your back is supported by your body rather than by the back of the chair if possible. So whether you're on the chair or on the floor, let your feet connect into the ground, let your sitting bones find their support, and just see if you can allow your spine to connect and release and maybe grow a little. Anyway, as I say, I'll be starting properly in about 2.5 minutes time. So for those who don't know me, I'm Helen Davis from One Step Forward. I should probably have said that right at the top. I'm a yoga teacher, but I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist, and I'm fascinated by how both yoga and hypnotherapy give us a way in which to make space physically, mentally, and emotionally. And this short series this week is designed as a little bit of an introduction or an overview of what's actually going on in our minds, in our brains, in our bodies when we practice yoga. So the videos will stay on my Facebook page, and once they're there, on my YouTube channel until the end of this month. That's November 2021. And after that, they'll be available indefinitely in my Facebook group, which is called Make Space, Prevent Burnout. So if you're not already a member, I do invite you to check that out, and I'd love to see you in there. And I share lots of practices in there. We're building a community of people who are looking to make more space for themselves. There is a library of practices that you might find helpful. And of course, I also teach yoga, which I do online and in person in workshops. And in fact, I have a workshop coming up in Hampshire next Saturday with a couple of spaces still available. So if you're interested in that, do drop me a private message. So today I'm going to be talking about the brain. And I find this absolutely fascinating. But caveat here, it's not my specialist subject. I'm hugely grateful to Kristine of Subtle Yoga, whose teachings about the neuroscience of yoga inspired me to do this course, to present this series of lessons, building on the things I've learned as my hypnotherapy training. And in order to squeeze a lot of information into a very short time, I will inevitably oversimplify things. So my invitation is that you use the next 5 minutes to sit quietly, allow your brain to absorb whatever it finds helpful. You can always watch again on replay if you want to pick up on the facts again. But focus for now more on how you feel and let the information just wash over you. So bringing yourself back into your body, connecting to your feet, connecting to your sitting bones, allowing your spine, whether you're on a chair or the floor, allowing your spine to be supported. And, excuse me, let's get started. So I have got some notes here to make sure that I don't forget anything. There's a lot I want to cram in the next 5 minutes. So today we're going to take a very quick tour of the brain. We're going to look at the key functions of the brain and how yoga can help. So any neuroscientists, anyone else who already knows this stuff inside out, you might want to look away now because it's going to be very surface. Let's start with a quick recap. So yesterday we talked about the fact that yoga is the settling of the mind into silence, and that yoga itself is much more than simply postures. So the brain has three core desires, activities, intentions. One is survival, absolutely fundamental, of course. One is returning our bodies to homeostasis. And one is rest, the restorative practices that help us to do both of those things. So today, in this 5-minute segment, we're going to focus on three key areas of the brain. The hindbrain, which includes the brain stem, the forebrain and the limbic brain. And I'm going to use a lovely little model developed by Dan Siegel, which can help us understand how these three functions, these three parts of the brain fit together. So if you look at my hand, you might even want to do this yourself while I'm talking, if you find that helpful. The wrist and the heel of the hand, imagine that's the hindbrain. So that includes this brain stem, which goes right down into the spine. And that's the survival part of our body. It's responsible for our breath, for our heart rate, for whether we're sleeping, awake, whether we're digesting, how well we're digesting, and all sorts of autonomic functions. Then we've got the thumb, which in this model represents the limbic brain, and that's evolved in perception, in emotion, in other autonomic and instinctive functions, such as the response to when we feel under threat. And then finally we have the forebrain, which is represented here by the fingers. And this is our rational brain, our logical brain, our ability to inhibit our emotions and use reason or logic where appropriate. So the lovely thing about this little model is it allows us to get the idea of what happens when we lose contact with those different parts of the brain. So when we flip our lid, we lose that rational part of the brain and we are ruled by our emotional side. And if we are traumatized so much that we lose that emotional part as well, we lose access to that, we shut off from it, we go into survival mode. So how can yoga help with all of this? Well, research shows that regular yoga, not just postures, remember, but also meditation, breath awareness, and so on. Regular yoga can help optimize our balance, returning to homeostasis. It can help our respiratory and cardiovascular health, our coordination, our strength. It can help us sleep, and it can help us manage those survival functions. All of that is the hindbrain territory. So that's how yoga helps the activities of the hindbrain. Regular yoga is also shown to help with self-regulation. That's the ability that we have to manage our emotions and behave appropriately to the circumstances we're in. Yoga lowers stress. It increases pro-social as opposed to antisocial behaviour. And that's all the territory of the limbic brain. And then on top of that, regular yoga practice is shown to help us in our focus, in our ability to pay attention, in our planning, our reasoning, our memory, our ability to set goals. All of those are those forebrain functions. So in other words, yoga can help on every level of this very simplistic model of the brain. Now, scientists used to believe that the adult brain was hardwired. In other words, once it was set, we couldn't really change it. But now we know that the brain continues to change and evolve throughout our lives, creating new neural pathways which can affect the way our patterns of thought and behaviour. And this concept, which is known as neuroplasticity, has been shown to be helped by regular practice of yoga. So what do we need to do to enable our brain to change? Because in this context, let's say we are suffering with enormous stress, we want to do yoga to help us respond in a different way to stresses. What do we need to change those neural pathways and engage that neuroplasticity? Well, according to Dan Siegel, we need to be emotionally engaged or interested in what we're doing. We need our brain to experience repetition over and over and over again, the same thing, the same concept. We need to be focused and aware. This is really important. This is why multitasking doesn't help you learn things. You need to be focused on what you're learning. And we need novelty so that we don't get bored, not doing the same thing over and over and over again. So novelty and repetition. I'm aware that sounds contradictory, but if you think about it, it's really not. So yoga can provide all of these things. And why slow yoga? Well, Norman Deutsch, the author of the fabulous book, The Brain That Changes Itself, says slowness of movement is the key to awareness, and awareness is the key to learning. Slower movement leads to more subtle observation so that more change is possible. In other words, regular yoga practice helps improve brain function and neuroplasticity, and the slower we do it, the more effective it is. Okay, so I've slightly overrun on my 5 minutes, but we're going to move now into our practice. So I invite you to come to your chair, and our practice is going to focus on a slightly different aspect, which I haven't even had time to touch on, as well as these different functions of the brain, the parts of the brain. The brain is divided into two hemispheres, the right and the left, which operate the left and the right sides of the body. So we're going to do a practice now that helps bring the two sides of the body, the two sides of the brain into balance. So I invite you, however you're sitting, to let your hands rest onto your thighs or knees, palms up, and to take a few moments to just let your weight drop down into your feet, into your sitting bones. Maybe give your shoulders a little bit of a wriggle to let them release. Give them permission, if they're ready to do so, to let go. And bring your awareness to your breath. And at the top of the next inhalation, let the fingers and thumb of each hand gently come together as if they were a tulip or a lotus blossom closing up for the night. And then as you exhale, release the hands. And just do that for a couple of breaths at your own pace, in time with your breath. Inhaling, closing the fingers, exhaling, opening them. And then at the end of the next inhalation, when both your fingertips are together, as you exhale, release the left hand and keep the right hand open. Inhale, exhale, and simply allow the breath to come and go gently as you keep the left hand rested, relaxed, open, and the right hand with the fingers closed. And notice how, as you do this, your breath starts to come through the left nostril. Notice how you can allow the breath to fill the whole of the left side of the body and to be released by the left side of the body. If you find nostril breathing really hard, you can let the air breath come out through your mouth, but it's better to use your nostril if you possibly can. And there may be a little bit of effort involved initially in breathing through one nostril, but just let your body find its way. And at the end of the next inhalation, let your left fingertips close again at the top of the inhalation. And as you exhale, release the right hand. And for the next minute or so, just allow yourself to breathe through the right nostril, letting the breath fill the right side of the body, letting the right side of the body exhale away every last drop of that breath, bringing yourself into balance through that right side of the body. And at the top of the next inhalation, at the top of the next inhalation, let the right hand fingers close and release the left. And you can either do a few more breaths on the left like before, or if you feel comfortable doing so, at the top of the next inhalation, close the left and open the right. Exhale, inhale, close, open left. Exhale, inhale, close, open right. And continue with this pattern in your own time, at your own pace. Closing the fingers together at the top of each inhalation and releasing the opposite hand. And as your body and your breath gets more used to this movement, can you allow it to become automatic and let your awareness come back to the sensation of the breath coming in through the open nostril, filling that side of the body and releasing. And then coming in through the other side, filling, releasing. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute or so now to allow you to continue focusing on this movement, on this feeling of the breath. And at any point, if you feel that you've had enough, you can simply release both your hands and return to double nostril breathing. And the next time you come to the top of an inhalation, release both fingers as you exhale, both hands. Let the hands be relaxed and comfortable. Reconnect to your feet and your sitting bones if you slightly lost that connection. And allow your breath to come and go easily and gently through both nostrils, feeling the luxury of breathing through both sides at once. Being with your breath in your body. So I invite you to notice how it feels, how your mind feels, how your body feels, how your breath feels. You don't need to analyse it in depth, just notice if it feels different now from before we started the practice. 10 minutes is not long. So I would invite you, if you have time and inclination, to sit here and sit quietly for a little longer when I sign off. And please like, comment, share this video, tag anyone else you think might be interested. I'll be back here just before 8:45 tomorrow, and tomorrow we will be looking at the autonomic nervous system, moving down through the body, what that does and how yoga helps it do it. And meanwhile, I invite you to take this sense of balance into the rest of your day and to have a lovely day. thank you for joining me.